Losing a dog, it's more heartbreaking than anyone can ever imagine. The video today is dedicated to how to discuss the very difficult topic of the death of a dog in the family with your children.
Kids around dogs, we're gonna make it okay.
Hi, my name is Debbie and I'm the founder of Kids Around Dogs. I'm also a dog behaviorist trainer, level 3 autism in children practitioner, and a mother. My first child was not human. He was a dog and his name was Pixel. He was effectively my first child. Both my husband and I treated him as the most important thing in our lives. He was fed the best that we understood was the best for him. He had more toys than you can imagine. He had comfy beds all over the place, but he slept with us. And he had the best seat in the house on the sofa. And he could do no wrong in our eyes. We took him to school, to educational classes, I guess, for dogs. They weren't the best, and we didn't know at the time. But we quickly understood that the method that teacher was using wasn't what we wanted. And we lived in Switzerland at the time with limited choices. So we had to kind of deal with things ourselves. I think my husband was particularly good at the time. He also had maybe a bit more time than me as well to dedicate to these things. And so he did a lot of the training, which is ironic because at the time I was a teacher and now I'm a trainer, so it's quite funny. But we both doted on Pixel. And then when we moved then back to the UK, and our daughter was born in 2011, the human daughter. At the time, Pixel then was 4 years old. So you can imagine that for 4 years, Pixel was effectively our everything, in many ways. Then Molly was born and they grew up together as such. And when Molly had just turned 3 years old, Pixel unfortunately died. We still don't know exactly what happened. It is likely that he had a tumor that we didn't know about, but he went very quickly. That night, that evening, he didn't want his dinner, which was extremely unusual for him. And I started not feeling well and not walking properly. And so we took him to the vet, the emergency vet, which is right up the road from us. During that time, we were lucky enough that Gary's sister, so my sister-in-law, was here to stay. So we could leave Molly, our daughter, with my sister-in-law, and both Gary and I could go to the vet and kind of try to find out what was wrong with Pixel. We took him there. They asked us to leave him there, and they were gonna do what vets do. So we came back home, and a couple of hours later, we still hadn't heard from the vet. And just as I was about to call them, they called us, and they told us it was about 11 o'clock at night. They told us to go and say goodbye, effectively, to Pixel. So Gary and I, completely unprepared, might I add, we thought he'd just eaten something funny and they were just gonna clear him up and we were gonna go and pick him up maybe the next day if he had to stay overnight. We were absolutely not prepared for this, for saying, having to say goodbye. So we went, just the two of us, and again, my sister-in-law was staying here. Molly was asleep, but my sister-in-law could babysit. So we went to the vet, and unfortunately, like when we arrived, no one told us anything, but they told us where the room was. So we went in there, and he was what looked like he was asleep on a blanket. And instead, when I lay down next to him and I was crying, and I could feel him, I could feel his body being cold. Sorry, it's really difficult to talk about this. But I remember asking Gary, "Oh, why is he cold? He feels cold. Why is he cold?" And that's when the vet that was in the room with us said, "Oh, didn't you know that he had already passed?" So we weren't with him. And I think that's really heartbreaking for me, that he had been with us throughout so many things in life. And perhaps when we should have been there, when he needed us the most, we weren't. And a long time has passed. I know that it wasn't our fault. We didn't know. But still, you know, that regret is there, you know. And as you can imagine, we were devastated, and we had to eventually go home. And the next day we had to deal with having to tell Molly about it. And I think that was very hard because we were, because we were unprepared ourselves, we were absolutely distraught. It was very hard to then having to tell a child who is 3 years old that she's never going to see not only her dog, but we literally, you know, we used to call him your brother to Molly. So the attachment was very strong. I found it too difficult myself. So Gary told Molly that Pixel passed away, that he was sick, and even the vet couldn't help him, and that unfortunately he wasn't going to come back to the house. This was said once, and this had to be repeated many times. I talk about this as well in my book. It started with a sit. There is, you know, a proper chapter dedicated to this. I know now so much more than I knew 11 years ago when he passed away. I know, for example, the saying words like passing away, fell asleep, that kind of thing are not clear enough. They are not the right words to use. Especially with children, you should be clear on what you're talking about. So to the child, you should say, Pixel is dead, or Pixel has died, and explain as much as you can what that means. It means that his body was sick, and very sick, so sick that no medicine and no doctor could cure him. If you know exactly what it is, explain it. Explain what it is to the child. Obviously, you don't have to go and do like open heart surgery and show them the inside, but just explain what the illness was. If you can, have the vet explain it to the child as well. The child can be involved in this and can come to the vet with you. In our case, again, we never expected this. Also, it happened in the middle of the night when Molly was asleep. So many reasons for her not to come up with us. And to be fair, we didn't know this was going to happen. And we didn't know, again, what we know now. So if it were to happen now, obviously I wouldn't have woken her up, but you know, had it been a different time of day, for example, we would have explained, and she would have come with us as she wanted to. This, in fact, is a bit what happened then when Wilco, our other dog, Pug, passed away. Pixel died, and the next morning Gary talked to Molly and told her, simply because I literally could not utter a word. These had to be told, or she had to be told a few other times what happened. She would like come up to us and go, where is Pixel? Or when is Pixel coming home? And we were like, well, we literally just told her. It's not like the child doesn't want to remember in a way, or tries to wind you up or whatever. It's literally, it could be, sometimes it is very difficult to accept, to understand that Pixel was not coming home. So she had to check in and go, so where is he? When is he coming home? The other kind of thing is that they need that confirmation from you that what you're telling them, it is what it is. So if you tell them that Pixel was ill and the vet could not help him, this is something you're going to have to tell over and over again. You know, every time they ask, this is what you're answering. Don't change the answer to kind of accommodate them in a way, or to make it easier for them, like the story of, oh, the dog is going to live in a farm, that kind of stuff. It really doesn't help. In our case, I'm not exactly religious. I was raised Catholic, but I'm not a strong believer. What I do believe in, though, is that this is not all we have. This is my belief, and you can disagree with it and laugh at it if you want. But I do believe that we come back, and that there is a soul, and that our soul goes somewhere. Maybe it makes me feel better. Maybe there is nothing afterwards, but this is what I like to believe, and that's what it is. So to Molly, at the time I told her that Pixel had gone up to the sky, and he was a star, and we could see him every night in the sky. And this thing stayed with her, because I do remember some time ago, quite a long time ago, after he passed, it was bedtime one night, and the usual ritual, go to bed, that kind of stuff. And she was at the window, and I said, Molly, what are you doing? And she said that she was saying goodnight to Pixel, because she could see him in the stars. And that was really, really sweet. And that kind of made me also think that what I said and what I believe, again, stayed with her. Really, she remembered that. I understand that different beliefs, religion, and so on are at play. Some religion might believe something else that I don't know. So obviously, you, or if you're working with a particular client, stick to their belief, and that's perfectly acceptable, of course. But the word has to be clear. So again, the dog didn't pass away, didn't fall asleep, because all those things, or we didn't lose the dog, because all those things are not effectively true. Pixel wasn't just asleep, he died. We didn't lose him. It's not like I'm going to find him somewhere else. He's completely gone. All those things can be quite confusing. So stick to what is maybe a bit harsh and sometimes difficult to say, even now, even after all this time. And even for me, it is difficult to say. But both Pixel and Wilco have died, and I have to accept that. So by using the right word, I can help my daughter and other children to accept the same thing. So as I said, when Pixel died, Molly was 3 years old, 3 years and a few months. We then rescued Wilco. Not that long after Pixel died, maybe a couple of weeks, I got a message from Pixel's breeder, because we did keep in touch with her. And she told me that there was a pug that needed rescuing not too far from us. Apparently was adopted from France, and the person who adopted him wasn't nice to him. She would lock him in a room, not feed him. It was quite a difficult situation. So I got in touch with this woman that had what at the time was called Robert. She did not like him. She didn't like anything about him. And she didn't understand that he was a young dog. He was 5 months old. It needed training, it needed toilet training, it needed the right kind of food. She was doing none of it, and she just made my blood boil, to be quite honest. And not knowing anyone else that could rescue him, I just felt like, oh, maybe it's Pixel that is sending me Wilco to feel better again. I felt like that by rescuing this young puppy and pug, I don't know, I felt Pixel close again. So off we went, and we rescued what at the time was called Robert. It was coming, like I said, from France, and the woman had kept the name then here, but we decided to call him completely something else, and that was Wilco. Not like the shop in England, no. There's a band in the US that Gary was very fond of, so we decided to call him Wilco. To pick him up, it was just me and Gary. At the time, again, it was sort of luck in a way. My brother was here at the time, so he stayed with Molly, and she knew what was happening. She knew we were going to rescue a dog, and I explained what rescue meant, that he didn't have a nice family, so we were going to save him from that situation. She was very excited and everything, but I didn't want her to come simply because I didn't know this person we were going to rescue from. What if things were not going to happen or something? What if we couldn't actually then, get the dog and everything? So I felt it was better for her to stay with my brother. Everything went fine and we came home with Wilco. And Wilco had a difficult start because of his very difficult start. So I learned a lot from him. Because of him, I started studying dogs and working with dogs and knowing so much about dogs because of all the problems that he had, many of which we did overcome, some of which he just carried on for the rest of his life, but in a much better way, and knowing that he was loved, absolutely loved. He died of what you could consider old age. It was past 11 years old, which for a pug is quite good. He had started to lose the ability to walk properly, and towards the very end, he couldn't quite eat properly as well, and that was probably his favorite hobby. We knew that the time had come. The biggest difference in our house is that Molly was then 14 years old. We also had Winnie, so we had another dog, and seeing this dog struggling at his old age was hard. But I remember discussing with Gary how I could see that he was struggling, and I think Gary was almost a bit in denial at first. And I think that denial comes from because you love them so much, you don't ever want them to leave you. You don't ever want them to die. If you could, dogs would be immortal, right? But it was in front of us. It was obvious that it wasn't working properly. He couldn't go out for walks. He just couldn't physically do it. And because of the stress level that he had, quite a very short kind of fuse when it came to stress, trying to use a pusher or something, it was not working. He would not like it. So we did give him enrichment in the house and everything, but the quality of life had changed dramatically. And then we decided to take him to the vet to kind of have a more of a professional opinion from, again, the vet, who was really nice, and he couldn't, with the stress level as well, I thought it'd be easier for him to be seen outside rather than inside the vet surgery. So the vet came out, and to be fair, the moment that she saw him on the floor trying to walk, she knew that I wasn't fair on him. And she never said the word. She never said, "Oh, it's time" or anything like that. She asked us, how was our life with him now? How was his life? Could he walk? Could he play? Could he eat? Could he do all the things that a dog should be able to do to have a good life? And most of those things he couldn't do. He would struggle to walk. He wasn't playing anymore, probably because the aches or because he just physically couldn't do it. Chewing the food was really hard. So there was so much that he couldn't do. And he was incontinent as well. So yeah, the lot. And then the decision then was made. So we decided to give us the weekend to say goodbye to him. And it does sound maybe like a small thing, but it was so helpful. Being able to say goodbye, having those days to, taking the last videos, the last photos, cooking a special meal. Molly cooked him some scrambled eggs that he liked, that kind of things. And for all of us to really say goodbye, I think was a massive, massive thing. When the time came on the Monday, we had the appointment at the vet, early afternoon. We did ask Molly if she wanted to come. Again, Molly was 14 years old enough to make decisions herself, which needed to be respected, and also old enough to be left home alone, for us to go to the vet. I knew I wanted to be in with Wilco. I wanted to say goodbye to the very last minute to be with him. I know that Gary was struggling with that decision. He decided to come with me in the car to the vet, but he was struggling about being in the room with him. Well, Molly decided instead she didn't want him to say goodbye. The vet has suggested, has proposed that they come here and Wilco could have been injected here at the house. And Molly asked not to, because quite rightly as well, she said, but then every time that I would see where it happened, I would think of him. Then that would make me really sad that that's where he died rather than that's where he lived for so many years. We respected her decision there. And I kind of agreed with it myself, to be fair. So Gary and I drove to the vet, car park for a minute before telling the vet that we were outside. And during that time, Gary and I had a little talk as well, what he wanted to do. And at first he said, maybe I should be in with you for me, Debbie, rather than for Wilco. And I said that I'd be all right. And I said to him that he should do what he felt was right by him, because he's the one that would have had to live with that decision. Do you stay in until the end and then regret having seen that moment? Or do you not go in and then regret not having been there for him until the end? What do you do? And he decided to come in. And so we called the vet, we brought Wilco in, and as you can imagine, lots of tears. They led us to a room where we gave him another cuddle. They explained what was going to happen, which was they were going to take him in the room to do the first injection, which wasn't the injection itself, but it's kind of to prepare him for that as such, just really a few minutes. And then they would have come back to us, and we would have said that let's goodbye again, and then they would have done the injection, and we would have been with him. And she would have told us as well what was happening. My God, this is the hardest video I ever had to make. So they left with him, and I actually watched them just as they walked down the corridor to the other room. She was carrying on like this blanket. All the other ladies and vets and vet nurses were stroking it. And I think they knew obviously what it was there for. And he had some treats, because obviously you can have whatever you want at that time, right? Then the vet brought him back to us, and he was calm. It didn't seem stressed or anything. And then she asked us if we wanted him on our laps, on the floor, on the table. So we agreed to be on the table because he seemed to be fine on it, and he had this blanket around him. And then when we were ready, she did the injection. She told us again what was happening, and we just told him we loved him. And fairly quickly, but very, very peacefully, he died. And it did look like he was asleep, really. That's probably what they say, he fell asleep, because it looked like he was asleep. It was very, very peaceful. We didn't feel pressure to leaving or anything like that. We had our time. But then after a while we left, and we went home. And in the car, Gary said that he was happy that he had been with him. In the end, he saw how just the whole thing was very calm, very peaceful, very nice, for how weird as that might sound. It was a nice way to go, There was no pain, there was no suffering, there was nothing. All of that was gone, When we go home, Winnie was strange, like she was looking at us and looking behind us as to say, right, the three of you left and only two of you are coming back. Where is Wilco? Whilst Molly instead obviously knew, and we explained what happened, again with a lot of honesty, and every step that we lived, we explained to her. We asked her if she had any questions, which she didn't. She asked us simply when we'll pick up the ashes, and we knew it was going to be about a week or two. And we looked at that properly, because there are some dodgy things going on with dogs and all pets' ashes, actually. So you need to make sure that the vet goes with a firm, with a company that is proper, that they cremate your animal and not like a bunch together, so that you actually receive the ashes of your dog, your animal, and not someone else's, that kind of stuff, because unfortunately those things have happened. And so we chose together, Molly and I, and Gary obviously was involved, but I think it was Molly mostly. I let her choose the cascade that we were going to have, and so she chose a lovely one. I think it's a lovely way to have him always with us. So she asked when the cascade will be back, and I told her a couple of weeks, the least, or the most rather, and we just stayed together, and we, I think, can't remember exactly what we did right after, but we did something together, and maybe just a puzzle or something. Winnie, for a while, she used to share the bed with Wilco, because most of her bed she would eat anyway, but the one Wilco would sleep on, she didn't. But for a while after he died, she didn't use the bed. She would sleep around it, like at the edge of the bed, but not on it. And so it'd been, I think, about a couple of weeks before she actually slept on the bed again. It's been different with the stages of life of Molly, and with different stages of life of children. It will be different how they approach death, and how you too approach death. Or if you're working, if you're working with a family and they're your client, you will be even in a way more detached, but you can still understand that pain of going through the death of a dog in the family. So if you are a professional and you are working with a family, remember a lot of compassion, and understanding, and not rushing emotions or things to do. With the children, be clear on the word that you use. Don't make things up as such. Again, if there are some beliefs in the family, if you have certain beliefs, go ahead and use them, because those are your belief or the family's belief, and that's fair enough. Try to be as honest as possible, as clear as possible, and give the child as many choices as they can. So choose to come with you to the vet to say goodbye, choose a casket, choose what the last meal could be, when they're ready for the beds or the stuff that belong to the dog to move maybe to another dog or to a shelter, or to be thrown away, or something to be kept. All those things can be things that the child can be involved in. And if you obviously have a nice vet, maybe again the child can be involved in discussing or talking to the vet about what went wrong, why is the dog not well, why couldn't it be cured, that kind of thing. Most vets are really nice and understanding, and they will be happy to explain these things to the child and to yourself. So don't be shy, and don't feel like you shouldn't ask about this. There is a great tool to help explaining children about death as well, and it's a social story. You can create like a little booklet if you want to print things out, or it can be on like a tablet or something. But it's literally about using drawings or very simple words, or even photos, to show what has happened. For example, with Pixel, we had one where there was, effectively this story of Pixel and what happened to him, but what also things that we are not going to forget about him. And it's, I feel, a simple way for the child to really be able to remember more what he's been told. That might also help you if you're struggling to remember that event, if you like, or to find the right words as well, because sometimes it's so hard and you're grieving too. Having the social story, it almost gives that booklet or those images on the tablet, whatever, the difficult job of having to repeat those words over and over again. And I feel like they can help much more the child with that understanding. It's a graphical thing because there are either drawing or photos, or both if you want to. There are also simple words if the child can already read. But yeah, is a big help in that respect. And finally, I mentioned before, but you are grieving too. So please make sure you look after yourself. I know that you'll be worried about your child, how they're going to react to this, how they're going to cope. And maybe you're also worried if there is another dog in the house, like I was about Winnie, and even about Mario. Maybe you're worried about your partner. I was about Gary as well, and he was about me. But look after yourself, be kind to yourself. You are grieving, and grief is a really funny thing. When you think you're okay and life is moving on as it should, sometimes they hate you. There is a smell that reminds you of them, or there is someone does something that reminds you of an event that you've lived with dog. Recently, I was at Crafts, and there were quite a few pugs around, especially on Toy Day. And it hurts me. It still hurts to see other pugs and to pet other pugs, because they remind me of Pixel and Wilco. So I can't. I can obviously being able to professionally talk about this and work with my client and any other Kids Around Dogs professional is been taught as well through the courses. There are this topic is discussed as well, and we Neurodivergent Kids. These things in my book, all that. But in my heart, I'm the one, after all, that I've had to move on and had to carry on living after Pixel and Wilco died. I miss them, I miss them, and I can't say that I don't, because it'd be a lie. And sometimes, out of the blue, grief takes me, and I will shed a couple of tears. So if that happens to you, that's fine. Be kind to yourself. And, if you feel like you need to cry out, and just try as well to remember what beautiful moments and memories you have with them. Because when I think back, I have so many years of beautiful memories with them, and those memories will stay with me forever. And I hope for you too that you have wonderful memories with your dogs and cats and whatever other pet. And if you feel like you should make some more before the time comes, my God, absolutely go ahead, take loads of photos, loads of videos as well, but especially leave those moments, even if there isn't a photo for it or there isn't a video for that, but you've lived that moment, that will stay in your mind forever and in your heart. And that's, I think at the end of the day, is the most important thing. I hope this video helps you. I hope it hasn't depressed you too much. While it made me sad, it also makes me happy to think that they were in my life, and I'm so grateful to both Pixel and Wilco. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I would love to know if these videos helped you and how you want to remember your dog. If you found this video useful in any way, I would really appreciate you subscribing to the channel and maybe share it for other families that might need some support. Thank you. Bye.